And now, Real Time 1960s presents Sports Extra. And here is your host, Joe Rubenstein.
Good evening. On Bob Cousy night at the Rhode Island Auditorium, 5,595 cheering fans watched the first-place Boston Celtics, who had lost 3 straight to Syracuse, strike back and beat the Nationals 123-114. The high man for Boston was power forward Tommy Heinsohn, who scored 33 points in 28 minutes, while Hal Greer paced the Nats with 24 points. But it was Cousy, set to retire after this season and thus playing his last game in Providence, who provided the evening's biggest thrill, albeit accidentally. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics playmaking wizard attempted one of his patented floor-length passes to rookie forward John Havlicek from 75 feet away, but instead put the ball in the basket for a spectacular long-range two-pointer that brought the crowd to its feet. The Celtics had 7 men in double figures tonight, with Havlicek scoring 20 points in 24 minutes, while Heinsohn had 20 rebounds to go with his 33 points. Cousy dished out 9 assists. At Cincinnati Gardens tonight, the Royals were stifled by a swarming St. Louis defense and then compounded their troubles by turning the ball over numerous times. As a result, Cincinnati had their 4-game win streak broken as the Hawks prevailed 99-96. Not even Oscar Robertson, the Royals' top man tonight with 23 points, was immune to error. The Big O made several key passes to St. Louis defenders, and he also missed 5 free throws, another below-average department for the Royals tonight. The Hawks, meanwhile, played their usual game of stalling the Royals' fast break and setting up their best shooter, Bob Pettit. The 30-year-old forward wound up with 30 points, high for the evening, and led his club with 16 rebounds. For the disappointed crowd of 4,202, the best action came in the first quarter, when the home team's Wayne Embry, a 250-pounder, squared off with the Hawks' Zelmo Beatty in a fistfight. The officials had allowed unusually rough play between the two men in the opening minutes, and when Beatty slammed into Embry mid-air and knocked him to the floor, Embry came up swinging. Neither player landed any solid punches, and play resumed after the fight with no ejections. Out west, the Lakers, after a grueling month of one tough contest after another, finally had a laugher last night at the Los Angeles Sports Arena. The Western Division leaders halted the Detroit Pistons' 3-game win streak with a 128-111 victory. The Lakers took the lead in the first 7 seconds and never gave it up. Even so, the Pistons hustled most of the way and trailed by only 3 at halftime. But Elgin Baylor, who scored 41 points tonight to follow his 50 against Boston Wednesday, came out flying in the second half, as did his teammates. They sank 6 straight shots to none for Detroit, and for all intents and purposes, the Pistons were done. The Lakers, even without Jerry West, who suffered a torn hamstring in New York February 3rd, just had too much firepower. The only minor flaw for the victors was a bang in the head suffered by Frank Selvey when he was run over by Detroit's Dave DeBusschere, an NBA rookie who also pitches for the White Sox. But Selvey was just stunned, and he will play tomorrow night when the Lakers host Wilt Chamberlain and the San Francisco Warriors. The Lakers are now 11 games in front of the Hawks in the Western Division. Turning to baseball, New York Yankees general manager Roy Hamey announced today that Marshall Bridges, the Yankees relief pitcher who was shot in the leg Wednesday night in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, should make a full recovery. Hamey had just consulted with Dr. George Rahilly, a surgeon and bone specialist, who said the bullet had damaged a calf muscle and fractured Bridges' fibula. The southpaw should be out of action for at least 6 weeks. Bridges, a 31-year-old native of Jackson, Mississippi, who is married with 3 children, was shot 4 inches below the left knee at the Pride of Fort Lauderdale Elks Lodge, a Negro club. Police said Carrie Lee Racer, 21 years old, fired a .25 caliber pistol at Bridges as they sat next to each other at the bar. Miss Racer told police, quote, "He put his arm around me and pulled me over, and I don't like that kind of mugging," unquote. She said Bridges had asked her several times if he could take her home, and, quote, "When he kept bothering me, I took out my gun and shot him," unquote. Miss Razor was arrested and charged with aggravated assault. In St. Petersburg, Florida today, the St. Louis Cardinals announced that Bob Gibson, their 27-year-old ace right-hander, had signed his 1963 contract for $25,000. Gibson, who finished last season with a 2.83 earned run average, was 3rd in the National League in strikeouts behind Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax of the Dodgers, and tied with the Pirates' Bob Friend in shutouts with 5. Another positive mark for Gibson was his total of low-hit games, best in the majors. He pitched 1 2-hitter and 6 3-hitters. On top of Gibson's mound performance was his offensive production. His 20 RBIs exceeded the combined output of entire pitching staffs on other National League teams. The Cardinals finished in 6th place last season with a record of 84-78. This week, manager Johnny Keane was asked for his crystal ball prediction for 1963.
I'm so wrapped up in the tightness of the National League race that I just don't know how to predict. So many things can go wrong, so many things can go right for you, and I know that so many of the small things have to be coordinated and have to work in your favor to make a pennant winner, but I've got to believe that we've made certain moves with the ball club at the top level in the regular lineup that we would have to be considered in with any one of 4 or 5 clubs at this time.
Keane was asked for his managerial perspective on the great Stan Musial, whose 1963 season will almost certainly be his last.
Is able to help young players and, of course, has learned to say the right thing at the right time. That has been the big thing, and so willing, so cooperative at all times that all of the players, from the young players on up into the veterans, seeing Stan do the things that he does, do them on the field, the sacrifice that he makes in spring training and his practice, they realize that that's the right way to do it. Our Stan, they know that Stan wouldn't be around as long as he has been. So he has never said the wrong thing, I don't believe. I've never heard him say the wrong thing to anybody. He handles himself perfectly in every situation, while he is a quiet fella. He doesn't force himself into any situation, into the meetings or into our clubhouse discussions, but he's there with the right word when it is needed, and he always seems to say the right thing.
Elsewhere in the National League, Dodger shortstop Maury Wills, who stole a record 104 bases in 1962 and was named the National League MVP, signed a $45,000 contract last week with Los Angeles. Wills, 30 years old, was given a $15,000 pay raise over last season and is now the second highest paid Dodger. Don Drysdale, who won the 1962 Cy Young Award, will make $46,000 this season. For Wills, the contract stands in sharp contrast to the $11,000 he received in 1960, his first season as a Dodger regular. After signing the contract, Wills said the Dodgers' failure to win the pennant last year probably cost him $60,000 in fringe benefits, but he was able to capitalize on his personal accomplishments this offseason. He won the $10,000 diamond-studded Hickok Belt Award, he received an imported sports car as the MVP, and he cashed in on personal endorsements. On top of that, he earned a salary as part of the Dodger Nightclub Act that played 4 weeks in Las Vegas. The act, in which Wills sang and danced with Drysdale, Duke Snider, Frank Howard, and Willie Davis, opens an 11-day engagement in Miami Beach next week. Hockey, right after this.
A push-up is a little thing, but little things add up. This is Eddie Lewis doing a simple push-up, so simple that people wondered why his school encouraged him to do it, until they took a close look at the anatomy of a push-up. When Eddie pushes himself off the floor, he puts pressure on his arm and shoulder muscles. His whole body benefits. His heart beats faster and stronger. His face gets a little red. That's because his circulation stepped up. When Eddie relaxes, his body goes back to normal, with one important difference. Eddie is just a little bit stronger, a little bit healthier, and a little happier than before. A push-up is a little thing, but it adds up to bigger things, the way little words mount up to make important sentences. For a free booklet to help you evaluate the fitness program in your school, write the President's Council on Physical Fitness, Washington 25, D.C.
The 6 NHL clubs were off tonight. In last night's only contest, Dean Prentice drilled a rebound past Jacques Plante in the third period to give the upstart Boston Bruins a 2-1 victory over the Canadiens at the Montreal Forum. It was the 6th straight game without a defeat for the surging Bostonians, who moved to within 2 points of the 5th-placed New York Rangers. The winning goal was produced early in the third period when Boston center Bob Leiter carried the puck into the Montreal zone and flicked a quick wrister from beside the goal. Plante kicked the puck out in front of the net, where the unguarded Prentice beat the masked goalie with a 15-footer. The loss was a bitter pill for the 13,817 fans who had turned out for Montreal's homecoming after a 4-game road trip. Even worse, the defeat cost Montreal the services of their top performer, the pocket rocket, Henri Richard, younger brother of the retired Maurice Rocket Richard. After the game, a team spokesman said the 5'7" pocket rocket had pulled a groin muscle and will likely miss a few games. Tonight's result left Montreal in third place, 1 point behind the defending champion Toronto Maple Leafs and 6 behind the league-leading Chicago Blackhawks. And that, for this evening, completes our look at the world of sports on this Friday, February 15th, 1963. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day tomorrow.
This has been Sports Extra, your source for all the latest news, scores, and highlights.